What if your iPhone could actually make you a better hockey player? Not with highlight reels or random drills, but with a purpose built guided system that sharpens your vision, reaction time, and decision making, all without stepping on the ice. Well, that's exactly what my next guest is building. Today on the Hockey Journey podcast, I'm welcoming back Michael Fitzgerald, the founder of HeadsUpHockey.ai and the creative mind behind the newly launched Heads Up Crush, a hockey training experience modeled after the addictive fun of mobile games like Candy Crush, but designed to help players actually develop elite level hockey sense and awareness. Over the last year, a lot has changed. I've joined the team not only as an investor, but also as a coach within the app, providing guided training and development for players who want to take their off ice game to another level. In this conversation, we'll break down how the app works, what makes it different, and how players, from youth to pros, are using this tool to train their eyes, brain, and instincts. We'll also talk about the importance of daily training habits, the science of visual processing, and why off-ice development isn't optional anymore if you want to separate from the pack. Whether you're a player, parent, or coach, this episode will open your eyes to what's possible when technology and hockey IQ collide. Let's get to it. Here's my conversation with Michael Fitzgerald and HeadsUpHockey.ai. Well, we're back with Michael Fitzgerald with HeadsUpHockey.ai. It's been just over a year, maybe a year and a half. It hasn't been a year and a half since we kind of our paths crossed, and I think the first thing we should do, we did a podcast back then, talking about what you had going on, and a lot transpired from that moment, me having shoulder surgery too, until where we are now. So why don't you kind of start it off? How did you find me? Why were you looking for someone? And then get to the point where you emailed me, and then I can take it from there for a little bit.
Okay. So we did the podcast about a year ago, and I mean, I feel like that's been probably a super pivotal moment, not just in Heads Up Hockey, but in my life. And really just like really big on meeting you, Lance, and like starting to build that relationship. So I ended up emailing. So I started Heads Up Hockey about, a year and a half ago, and I was cold emailing a bunch of people. And I watched your online hockey training videos, and I said, hey, those are some of the best training videos that I've seen. And it wasn't like those are just like a little bit better than the rest. I felt like they really had the mix of professional coaching along with, somebody who's been with younger players and seen them come up. And so I wrote a cold email. That's kind of how we got connected. And yeah, we ended up doing a podcast. And I think, the relationship has kind of blossomed from there. And we found a lot of synergies between Heads Up Hockey and online hockey training and you, Lance. And so now we're on the eve of, a year. We're dropping a new product. It's about exactly a year to the date when you came out to Virginia and we met in person. So I'm
Well,
really excited to talk about
me
it and kind of get into it.
let me take it from there for a little bit. So we did the podcast. You were awesome, by the way. I really enjoyed that. And I love the entrepreneurial spirit, and I've been that guy for a long time now. So I'm intrigued to what other people are, what's their process. But anyways, we did the podcast. You send me out a unit, and I had made a video for you because just kind of a product review real quick. And what happened was is I had shoulder surgery, and it was maybe 5 or 6 days after, and I just needed to get up and do something except lay around and take pain pills. So my son set it up, and I'm down there playing the Heads Up Hockey.ai for the first time with one arm, and it kind of completely changed the trajectory of where I thought I was going, for the next foreseeable future. But I called you right away. I did it for like a minute. It just sucked me in. I was just amazed at, what it did to me. And as a coach, from looking at it from that perspective, where, you know, the eyes aren't on the puck. They're somewhere else. And that was the flip, the switch that was flipped for me. But anyways, I did it for a couple minutes and I ended up calling you and I said, dude, if you need any help with this, I'd love to just help you. And you ended up coming out here to Minnesota for a few days, sitting in on a few lessons and seeing what I had going on, talked to some parents, and then over 4th of July, this is the weekend, I think I was out by you. Yeah. So it was this weekend. I came out and was just, it was such a fun trip to get to meet not only you in person, but to meet your family, your parents, your dog, which really liked me. I miss her, but yeah. And then in that, when I went out there, you and I kind of solidified our relationship. You want to take it from there?
Yeah, totally. I think like I just going back, I think, I think, early on you're kind of trying to do this thing and, not having a ton of experience in the hockey world and being able to go and see those lessons was like a really eye-opening experience. I felt like very like a magical kind of place, when you're with the kids and you're coaching and it's just kind of like the music's blasting. It's a super kind of fun, engaging environment. And I was like, how do we kind of like, first of all, I was just kind of blown away and I was like, this is super cool. And it's really cool that, this person who's also played in the NHL has any interest in anything that we're doing. And I was like, this is pretty sick. And then after that, I just like couldn't stop thinking about, the lessons, the experience, kind of, the whole, I guess the whole, experience for the kids. And then I think when we met, we just had a really strong, like entrepreneurial, personal connection, and we really matched a lot of vision. And so for me, it was just super exciting to have somebody else on board and somebody who's, been through the ringer a little bit more than me, who's seen a lot more things and then also has experience in the space. So it's just been, a really big blessing for me and the company. And yeah, and then that 4th of July trip was really, really fun. It's like something I'll definitely remember for the rest of my life. You coming out and us talking and, working on this project together. And yeah, so it's been about a year since we had that conversation.
It's in when I, I read a book before I went out to see you, or I was reading a book, Sid Meier, what is it? Not Civilization,
Yeah,
but
civilization.
yeah, but and it just because I'm not a gamer, I played Miss Pac-Man, a little Tetris, so I was trying to learn, what's going on. My kids grew up playing the video games and stuff, but I wanted to get into your world. You know how to code, and that's a different level of a skill set. I have no idea on that, but so I was interested in that part of the collaboration. But I think you just asking me questions, we're just sitting there, and I got a stick in my hand, and we sat in there for hours,
Yeah.
just kind of asking each other questions, and putting some spitball and throwing some things on the board, and all of a sudden it just kind of all meshed together. And now we're from that point on, we started building something that is soon or is launched.
But yeah, it launched today. So I'm super excited about that. Yeah, I think that like just kind of thinking about the process, I think, I look at Heads Up Hockey V1 versus I think that this is a clear version 2 of our product. And a really big like I feel like Heads Up Hockey is starting to like find its way and like who it is as like even a company and a product line. And I think that this is just, the first really big evolution of that. And I think that it all starts, a year ago where it's like, okay, we have this fun, like gamified training kind of thing. But then, I think we both asked the question of like, how do we take this really powerful platform and make it really useful, you know? Um, and so I think that like just having you here for a week, somebody who's played in the league and being able to go through all of the little nuances that I didn't even know existed with stick handling, You can talk about some of them if you, I mean, some of them that stuck out to me were like the way the blade, has to hit the ground when you stick handle and the top hand engine and, keeping that bottom hand loose. There's just so many like little nuances that you've picked up on.
It's parents after a first lesson that I have tell me consistently that they said, "Holy cow, I can't believe how technical this is," and it is. It's taken me, close to 2 decades to kind of figure this out. But um, what your platform, what you guys have created, it draws kids in, it gets into that world of, sport, bringing a sport into a gaming world that everyone's pretty used to. Moms and dads would wish they wouldn't play, but I think they're going to be encouraged to play this game. But it was how you had these fun games, and it was how can we create something that would, keep players coming back on a daily, weekly basis, because that's how you acquire skills. You gotta practice consistently. So we came up with the idea of, let's just focus on the bottom of the pyramid, and the goal was to try to get a stick in a kid's hand earlier than normal, than what's going on right now. Can we get someone at 5 years old, 6 years old, that maybe wouldn't really work off ice with their stick and a puck? Can we get them extra reps earlier in this fun environment? So the idea is for me to bring what you were talking about, what I have at my house when I do lessons, those drills, and put them in a platform that guides a player from the beginning to point A to point B, and they got to earn the fun stuff, the games, what you guys created. So they're going to have to do some training with me, some guided training, with dribbling, cupping, faking, the plan moves, using the toe of the blade, and we just kind of take them on a journey. And over time, hopefully, you're going to be sending us, people will be sending you emails and reviews saying, "Holy cow, this thing is really cool, and my kid has gotten really good, noticeably better in a short
Yeah, and I
period of
think that
time."
that mission of like just, bringing the whole game up to another level is something that really, hit hard for me. And when I went and visited you in Minnesota, I feel like that's kind of it was just really clear. And it was really clear that there was not just training, but there was a lot of fun and excitement in the training. And then even then there was like a lot of like competing with yourself on the training. So I saw a lot of people like it was like how many, backhand, top right corners can I hit in a row? And so and just seeing the engagement there, was really, really just exciting. So yeah, do you want me to kind of talk about some of the evolution of the product, like how we went from this to, filming the videos and everything, or?
You know what? I don't think we have to get too technical. I think people want to know what the heck it is. So this next version, the first version, headsuphockey.ai. Now it's the next Crush. So it's Heads Up Crush, correct?
Totally, totally. So it's
Uh,
still on headsuphockey.ai, but Heads Up Crush is like kind of a gamified training progression. So you have a bunch of levels that you have to complete, and you collect stars along your journey of completing those levels. And those levels are baked into a bunch of different, game modes and training types. So we created 5 core training types. One's like a lesson, one's an informational video. So you're taking a quiz about the specific skills you're learning. Um, and then there's also voiceover lessons where you have to say things while you train. There's metronome trainings, and then there's just game modes. And so, yeah, so we ended up building a studio in Minnesota, which was super cool. I want to talk about that because that was a crazy experience.
okay, let's hold
Um,
on before we get to that. You talked about trophies and badges. I don't know if you mentioned power ups and stuff, but you know the this is like kind of psychology is coming into sports because you're using a lot of other things just besides a puck and a stick. You're using the auditory, what they're seeing, what they're feeling. Um, what what's kind of the science behind, this motivation, it creates?
Sure. I think, the first thing is just putting all your trainings in a path. Just like I'm getting better, I can see my progress and tracking all of your statistics over time. I think that that's the first like psychological thing that's motivating. And then I think the second thing is creating like trophies, some kind of like reward mechanism behind, practicing, training well, and hitting different daily goals. Something else that's huge in Crush is a huge notification system. So we looked at like an app like Duolingo that like is notifying you all the time and trying to convince you to keep doing a streak, and it really rewards you. Heads Up Crush really rewards you for keeping your streak alive. So when you forget, getting that reminder to train. And then I think the last thing that's huge is we have an energy system. So players don't burn out just playing a ton in one session. So I think what we've seen with other training tools is kids will play a bunch like one day, be really motivated, and then it's like, oh, I forgot about it for 3 months, and then I dust it off every 3 4 months. Where here, you're trying to complete the map, but you're also hitting that 15-minute timeline. So we've really tried to model around 15 minutes of really hard practice, and then you kind of get a break, and then the app will notify you after a break and after some time to go and try again and keep on completing the map. Um,
Now, if they wanted to go more than 15 minutes, can they repeat the drills?
yeah, they
You
can
know,
repeat drills, and then they can also go and play game modes. So we haven't taken any of the game modes or anything out of the app, um, but we really have tried to limit it to that like progressive training in the small windows of time where you're really trying new things and you're really focused on specific aspects of stick handling.
so this is what I've been, I just felt like, somehow the I found that my angel investor, I guess, that the person I was looking for, because, I'm kind of the old school, I'm getting close to 60, and, I don't have a platform or, that does what you've created. Uh, but the role of the coach, what I love is that, I can provide players anywhere in the world what I know in short little videos, and you just have to follow the instructions. So let's talk about how we implemented that. We had to, because of the filming, I couldn't just have it in the same space that I do my lessons in. So I ended up leasing a space at a local rink here, New Hope Arena, and we had to set up a stage, for that. And why don't you talk about that? Because it wasn't, we did one thing, totally set it up, and then we had to tear it down and start from scratch. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, that was a kind of crazy experience. Maybe maybe the craziest part of this whole journey was setting up that studio. I think first, like, do you want to give some context into New Hope? Because I went to New Hope, and I think that just as somebody without context, like New Hope is a really cool space. Um, I don't know. Like I walked in and I was like, it was like I think like the Mighty Ducks was filmed there. It's like this
The Mighty
vintage
Ducks.
school.
I grew up playing, some youth hockey there in high school. I got a picture on the wall of fame. So my kids learned how to skate there, and I've always had a really good relationship. I ran hockey schools in the summer years ago there, and the guys are just great. So this space came available, just perfect timing. But it is a cool space, and I didn't even know this, but it's a real small community, but it has two rinks there. It has, a public swimming pool, huge area like that. And then they also have a 9-hole golf course. Not many communities have all three of those things. And it's a small one. So anyways, my parents, my brother and sister have kids that are in that program and stuff. So it just worked out really well. And it may be a place where I'll do lessons, but yeah, we had to set up a whole stage. We hired a guy, painted, we had tarps made, and then we hired a different guy. And
Yeah, so we,
so,
we 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 took a stage and we're like I guess like I just wanted the videos to really reflect the quality of the coaching. And so I didn't want to like, you know, shoot these videos and then to look, on the app and for the user not to really see like all the details and the, confusion. So when you see like the video, you'll see like this big like background that's all black, and then you'll see like the actual instructional. So you're really focused on like what is actually being taught. Um, and yeah, I think, it was we set it up one time, and so we're just in this big like empty space, and we're like, how do we turn this space into somewhere that's like really cool and like an engaging space? So we set it up one time, and that we ended up like building a tarp, and it was really wrinkly. It just didn't look very good. Um, and so I ended up flying out to Minnesota. We got a photographer who was like, here's how you need to set up the room with the lighting and the thing. And we built like this stage really to create these videos and this really like engaging experience for people.
So what's really cool is that I have a unique ability, I think, for a little bit. I'm pretty proficient both hands, and in all the years that I've been teaching, players learn differently than others, but the majority of them, when I'm trying to teach them something, uh, I face them. So it's like they're looking in a mirror. And that's how we've created the app that players, when they set up their profile or whatever, right-hander or left-hander, when they're seeing a demonstration of me doing a drill, it will be like they're looking in a mirror, and then they try to replicate exactly what I'm doing. I give them, a quick little explanation and then demonstration. We do it together, and that's kind of how everything works. So it's pretty excited about it, but I got to thank my dad, who's been the camera guy. We spent a lot of hours in there, and I I'm not a one take guy usually, but so we had to battle on some drills, but we got this first iteration as far as the content that I'm creating, the drills. We got that all done, and now it's just building the game. One thing I love about it is the feedback that players can get and the metrics and analytics. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you talked about the badges and stuff, but there's others things that are really motivating that, kids like to compete.
Yeah, so when you play Crush, there's a leaderboard in Crush. So whoever's the first to finish Crush here will be number one on the leaderboard. And then I think on the analytics and data side, we calculate your hand speed in the X, Y, and Z direction, which just means vertically, horizontally, or diagonally. Um, and as you're working through Crush, you're going to see a lot of analytics, data, graphs. So we will track all of your hand speeds over the course of Crush. And if you do a drill and based on your performance, you'll actually get at the end of the level, you get a little notification that will be telling you either to try harder and you were a little bit slower than the last time, or you're a little bit quicker. And then you can see that trend that's happening throughout the whole campaign. So you can see that on an individual level basis and throughout the whole campaign. And they're little cheeky notes too, so they're a little funny. So look out for that. I'm trying to think of another thing that we're planning on adding here pretty soon is in Crush we have characters, and each character is supposed to represent like a specific skill that you're trying to do. So Lance broke down stick handling into 5 core skills, um, and something else we're gonna have here pretty soon is when you hit a character, you're gonna get an assessment on that skill, so you can really just track one to one how you're progressing on that skill. So right now on the map, you can still see how you're progressing on the skill, but that's definitely something that we want to do to show like real improvement metrics for players over time.
Talk about, you know, how how do kids get access to this? I know right now there's a pretty deep up upfront cost as far to get into it. But I think you're maybe going to be moving to a different model.
Yeah. So we moved with the creation of Crush to this new subscription model, which we're super excited about. We just kind of felt like Heads Up Hockey was like too expensive up front for the somebody who's like, oh, is my kid actually gonna like this? Um, And I think, you as a younger company, you really have to charge that up front to start to build out a base to make your product good. Like, and that's like the sad reality, but you got to have money and, get people to help you build this thing out, right? But now I think, with Crush, it's really hit the point of this is now like a really long-term sustainable product and a product, that kids are going to keep on coming back to. Um, and also, I think, we've gotten it to the point where we can like lower that upfront cost and, you can decide, hey, do I still like it? Do I still want it? So we moved down to like a fixed hardware cost of $60. So you'll get it sent to you for $60. And then it's, there's a monthly subscription depending if you do it annually or monthly. And it's down to, I think, $13 a month if you do it annually, 13 or $12 a month. And that has, again, tons of skill videos, tons of training. So it's super, super exciting. And it's always exciting as somebody, who's the owner of the company to try to offer more value at like a cheaper cost.
Right. And I want everyone at home to hear this, especially if you got young kids and maybe don't have a huge knowledge of hockey. But besides skating, the second thing that hockey players practice the most when they play in practices and games is dribbling. And this game, they're going to learn how to handle the puck. And when I played in the NHL, I was a predator. I was trying to take advantage of players that weren't aware of me when I was on the ice when they had their head down too long or they bobbled the puck when they were receiving a pass. Then we had a little meet and greet usually, and coach was usually flying around sometime. But the players that I could never get a good hit on were the ones that could have, they played the game with their head up way more than everyone else could. And, so this is really important. This is, to me, it's groundbreaking. And I've tested it with players, let them give it a try. Everyone absolutely loves it. But, the feedback was, you play the games, the novelty of that wears off. We're hopefully fixing that trend by adding this guided training path. They'll still have all the games and stuff, but if they're courageous enough to take this journey with us, we like the results in a few months, how noticeable they are.
Yeah, we're super excited. And yeah, I think that that's a great point is, at first, Heads Up Hockey, when it came out, there would be, a good amount of burnout, um, which is pretty, I think, typical for pretty much any platform. But I think, now here, that you're talking hundreds of levels. I don't even think that like even saying like an update is really a fair comparison because now, this was a team of instead of it with just me working on this, it was a team of people working on this. And we've, reinvested everything into making the product a lot better. So, it's been a team of people working on this for, 8 months, getting ready to say, how do we go from like 1A to 1B? And that jump actually takes a lot of time, intentionality, even just the time for us to sit down and map out the course without even putting anything down, that's, you know, 20, 30, 40 hours. And then, it's hundreds of hours of filming and then just tons of drills. So we're super excited for people to see that and to see all the hard work that went into this. And yeah, we're excited for you guys to get to play it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, is there anything else that we have to cover, brother? Because I think that we covered quite a bit, and I hope that this was informative for people that are listening. But it's an unreal platform. It ties in really good with my company, Online Hockey Training, where you can
Yeah,
get
go check out online
even
hockey
even
training.
more drills. But yeah, no, this has been a great partnership, team effort. I've loved working with you and Aiden and everyone else, and I'm just grateful that I can be a small part of it.
No, we're super excited and we just again, thank you, Lance. I'm super excited to have a conversation. It's always cool to talk about, what we've been working on and it's been such a team effort and you put so many hours and so much work into this, so it's super cool to get to share about it.
Awesome. Well, it's launched. Where can people get more information if they're Because we'll add that
Um,
in the description as well.
yeah, headsuphockey.ai. Pretty much it's available on our website, so you just buy it and you'll get it to your house in the next 3 days. So, um,
Awesome. And you did you get you went international, didn't you? You got some
we actually
units
do have a
over.
distributor in Europe, so we don't sell directly in Europe, but we have a distributor in Europe. His name is Philippe Tomas. So shout out Philippe.
Hey,
In
Philippe.
headsuphockey.eu.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so worldwide, love it. Um, you know, this thing is just going to get better and better. I don't even think that we know what it's going to be 6 months from now,
I don't think so either.
with how, technology is moving and what you can and can't do. But all I want everyone to know is that whatever that version is, know that this is all we're doing. We're trying to make this product the best thing that the hockey world has ever seen. And I hope that down the road, people are going to say that this product improved the game. A game that's been around for over 100 years, and we can still make a little impact on it, a positive impact. So thank you for picking me, brother. I
Oh, thank you,
appreciate it.
Lance, for bringing everything. Honestly, all the experience and knowledge, and this platform's really a testament to 20 years of work that you've done. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Awesome. All right. We'll have everything in the description, but headsuphockey.ai, heads up crush. We are here to answer any questions. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you, Michael, for your time, and we'll be in touch soon.
Yeah, happy Fourth, everyone.
Happy 4th. Well, that concludes another episode of the Hockey Journey podcast. I can't thank you enough for stopping by and listening. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Michael Fitzgerald and learning more about how headsuphockey.ai and now Heads Up Crush are changing the way players acquire stick skills off the ice. If you're curious to check it out or want to become a member, visit headsuphockey.ai. They've just moved to a subscription model, so it's easier than ever to jump in and start training with purpose and guidance from yours truly. Lastly, if you think there's someone in your circle of family and friends who might like this episode as well, please share it with just one person. It really helps me in growing this hockey community. Again, I appreciate you being here. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, or leave a review. I hope to see you back here soon, and do me a favor, make someone close to you smile today. All the best, my friends.